Thank you so much for watching. You will want to stay for this entire episode. Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? We will be discussing each party. This is a critical election year. There has been an assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. President Biden has stepped aside due to illness, and Vice President Kamala Harris has taken his place. This is an election like no other. Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Stay tuned and enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bartelle's Money Talk. I'm John.
And I am Teresa, and today we are honored and we are blessed to have Mr. Philip Blackett with us again. That's how good he is, y'all. So, Mr. Philip, for the ones who've never met you or haven't heard you, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. So my name is Philip Blackett, originally from the South, Memphis, Tennessee. So definitely a Southerner at heart. But the first thing I identify with is not the fact that I'm a Southerner, not the fact that I'm a Black man, but most importantly, I identify first as a follower of Jesus Christ.
Amen. All
so
right.
I think with that being said, we can get started with the conversation because we took care of the most important thing.
That's right.
God.
That's right. All right, let's go.
That's right. So let's dive right in. So I know that you have written like several books, but there is one that really kind of captured my wife and our attention, and it was Jesus Over Black. So could you kind of discuss that a little bit? What do you mean by Jesus Over Black, and how did you come up with that title? And yes.
So I think it's a great question. It's honestly, so you're right. I've written a few books, 6 to 7 to be exact. And of the books I've written, that book, along with Disagree Without Disrespect, How to Respectfully Debate with Those Who Think, Believe, and Vote Differently from You. This Jesus Over Black book is probably right up there as far as my most personally significant books. And so for the full title of it, Jesus Over Black, it's Jesus Over Black, How My Faith Transformed Me into a Conservative within the Black community.
Okay, for those listeners who does not know what a conservative is, I need you to explain that, sir.
Sure. So I think a lot of people can look at it very much like, is it political wise, which of course it could be. Is it a physical conservative? Is it a social conservative? Is it a religious conservative? I think how I look at it from the framework of the book was thinking about it from the standpoint of there's some things as a conservative you want to conserve, right? Let's just get down to basics here. There's certain things that you think have stood the test of time, might have predated you, meaning it was here before you, and you feel like it's worthwhile to keep in the present moment, and you will want to continue after you. And so one of the things that I looked at that was along those lines was what I felt made me different among other people that looked like me. And what was that? It was essentially the thought that I was raised in the church in the South, at a Baptist church, to a good degree from my grandparents. They're no longer here, but they're inside my heart for sure. And two of the most important things that were important to them that they passed on to me as a legacy that I hope to do for my own children going forward, and hopefully to my grandchildren as well, is a relationship with Jesus Christ.
Right.
And the importance of education.
Right.
And so that is something that to me is worth conserving. And so when I think about that first one, I dig a little bit deeper. I look back over the past 39 years of my life. I look at what is the one thing that has rang true for me and has stood the test of time for me that makes the most sense for me to keep with. And that is essentially the Bible, my trusty Bible right here.
Yes. Oh, yes. We know about that.
We know about that Bible.
You know about that Bible. Okay.
Well, yeah.
So to bring it full circle, to land the plane here, so to speak, as far as what makes me a conservative, is the thought that Bible has been there before I was born.
That's right.
Maybe not that particular Bible, but the Bible in general.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
The Bible was there when my grandparents were raising my mother. The Bible was there when my grandparents were being raised and predated that, right? The thought that comes to my mind in 2024 and beyond is this. If you believe that same Bible, that same book that has stood the test of time for myself, my parents, my grandparents, and beyond to like ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe that that is truly the word of God, that what it says is true, that it is the truth, not his truth, not her truth, not its or they truth,
Right.
it's the truth.
Right.
And that it is the standard of what God has as the objective standard of what's right and wrong, and that it is without error, without fault, and is worth us following if we're going to call ourselves Christians or followers of Christ. That if you believe all that to be true, that in this day and age, that in and of itself makes you a conservative. And oddly enough, that in itself, if you truly believe that, can make you a conservative within the Black community.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, let's break this on down. Okay, Mr. Phillip. Well, most Blacks, we're not conservatives. We are Democrats because Mama and them raised us to be Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the knowledge and experience that you have, how do you think the Democratic Party relates to biblical scripture or biblical principle? Do you think the Democratic Party relates to biblical principles?
Have you
Come on
seen
now.
have you seen their platform this year? Have
Mm.
you seen the issues they've been talking about in their convention and what their, let's just say, their presidential candidate is talking about as far as her top issues? If you were to say what are her top 3 issues, where does that stand? The short answer I would say is not like it used to, because what I would imagine most people, if you live long enough, you recognize that today's Democratic Party is not your grandparents' Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is much further to the left, much more liberal, much more allowing of things that 30, 40 years ago, the Democratic Party was not advocating for, that our grandparents were not in favor of necessarily. That if those issues came up at the forefront back then, they would have thought to themselves, that don't line up with the word of God, and I'm not with that. And so what I would say is that we can't have selective amnesia of the past. Now, I can't fault somebody who's 20 years old, because I used to be 20 years old. And around that time, we had a Barack Obama running for president. And I didn't care what Democratic policy he had. I was in the mindset that I wanted to help elect the first African-American president. That was my mindset as a 20-year-old. But I also believe the Bible also talks about when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I acted like a child. But when I became a man, I had to put childish things away. And one of those childish things was letting something beyond Jesus or my belief as a Christian supersede what is most important. If something's going to supersede Jesus, then that becomes an idol in itself. And the Bible talks about idolatry all the way back to the 10 Commandments. And if you were really honest about it, it happened all the way up to Genesis chapter 3, where we got into this whole mess, this whole thing called sin, this concept of sin. It came essentially from humans made in God's image and likeness, choosing to follow God's creation over the creator. So when you idolize somebody outside of your creator, that is when we get ourselves in trouble. And what I realize is that we get opportunities every day to make a decision on who we essentially worship, because we do all worship something or someone.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
And so the question is, who do you worship today? And so I realized that the Democratic Party is a lot different from what the Democratic Party was 30, 40 years ago. And I would argue the Democratic Party has a couple idols that it essentially worships, and it essentially shames and pressures other people to worship and sacrifice in front of, that don't revolve around Christ or God. You want to know who those 2 idols are?
Put them out there.
You know I was going to ask you that question,
That's
right?
next question coming. Yes,
I can pop
them.
So the first one is consent. Consent in terms of, as long as you and I agree that it's okay, then it's good with us. Whether that's in relationships or how we go about lives together and that sort. Consent is the most important thing that people want to figure out. But there's somebody missing on that consent. Did God consent on what you decided to do? Did you include God in this? Did you pray about this? Did you include Jesus in the equation? Or did you have a and B conversation and you seed God out? Some people would say that's what ego is, edging God out. But the more prominent idol nowadays is called tolerance.
That's deep.
Tolerance is one where essentially nobody can judge anybody because we need to tolerate what everyone
Yes.
agrees with or believes with. It's
Right.
almost to the point where it's argued that if I don't agree with what you're saying, if I don't affirm in what you believe is to be true, that I don't love you. And so that sort of pressure allows it where if you allow one person to go a certain way, well, you got to allow somebody else to do the same thing. And the problem with that is when it comes to tolerance, you also allow yourself to tolerate sin. And we serve a God as Christians who does not tolerate sin. He is holy enough that he cannot be in the same atmosphere as sin, almost to the point that he had to send Satan down from heaven like a thunderbolt because he cannot be second.
That's right.
He cannot be in the same vicinity of sin because he is a holy God. So the problem becomes when we start to tolerate things that are not becoming of God. At some point, the enemy, Satan, the devil, Beelzebub, Lucifer, whatever name you want to call him, Legion, you tolerate so much that it's probably hard for someone to tell whether or not you truly are a Christian or not because you're so
Ooh.
lukewarm that you want to be accepted. You want to be tolerated by others. You don't want to rock the boat. But I do remember our good book said something along the lines of Jesus saying, look, you're neither hot nor cold.
That's right.
So I spit you out. You are no use to me.
That's right.
And if we're going to be followers of Christ, we want to be useful to him because in the end of the day, it may not look like there's war happening on a day-to-day basis, but that's because that's going off of what you can see in the physical sense. But we're only finite human beings that do not fully comprehend what is happening in the unseen on a daily basis. Because I would say there is a war happening. Spiritual warfare is real because that's funny. I said spiritual warfare is real.
Oh, yes.
Is real.
Is
Yeah,
real.
right. Yeah,
Is
exactly.
real.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yes.
There is truly a battle between good and evil. And it's not something you just watch on Netflix or on a next Marvel movie. Batman has nothing on what's been happening for thousands of years between the true good and evil.
That's
And so
right.
the question becomes, whose side are we on? Because ultimately, you can't necessarily be lukewarm on this one either. You can't just tolerate everything if you truly call yourself a Christian.
That is so true. And
Yeah.
so we have a lot of young male listeners. Can you explain the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party?
I think a good way to look at it is to find out what's important to each party. You see, one of the big things I had to learn was, listen, there's no perfect political party, first of all.
That's right.
Last time I checked, when we go to the voting booth every 2 to 4 years, I've yet to see Jesus Christ on the voting ballot.
That's right.
He's not running for president, vice president, senator, congressman, local trash man, school board. I haven't seen him at all. So what that means is essentially in any case, in any party, you're going to have to vote among other human beings that are sinners just like.
That's right.
Yes.
And so once we get that out the way, we then look at the political parties, Republican and Democratic parties, understand these are political parties of sinners, of hypocrites.
That's the truth. We are laughing,
but it's true.
It's true.
It's true.
Of liars, of imperfect human beings, of adulterers, of murderers, of slanderers.
Yes.
You name it down the list. All of us have fallen short.
Yes.
There is no perfect candidate.
Right.
So with that being said, now you look at it in the sense of what do these parties affirm or stand for? And that should help you understand, hey, there's probably not going to be a perfect decision. But as a Christian, you think about it from the standpoint of what policies, what platform is closer to what you believe is the right way for us to go as a nation versus the other one.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yes.
Yes. So, and all that is so true because if you don't base your choice based on the Bible, then you will base your choice based on your own opinion, your own fleshly opinion. And when you do that, based on your own fleshly opinion, a lot of times, well, a lot of times, all the times you make mistakes. A lot of times, all the time. So when you're saying that, what do you think are like some ingredients that the Republican Party can do to capture more African American voters?
So I think a couple of things come to mind for me. One, I think it's always helpful to have a honest history lesson.
Mm-hmm.
I used to study politics and American history. I used to love studying that. One of the odd things I used to learn was Republican Party today was not the Republican Party of whence it originated from, and neither was the Democratic Party. Long time ago, around the Civil War afterwards, we had a Republican Party that actually was advocating for abolition, meaning to free slaves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have someone like a Frederick Douglass, he wasn't a Democrat, he was a Republican. When you review your American history and you come across this time period called Reconstruction, you find out something interesting where you had not just one senator, not just one congressman, but you had multiple African American congressmen serve in the United States government around the 1860s, 70s, and 80s, around the Reconstruction period. Now tell me this, what political party were they from?
When we say Republican,
I'd say Republican.
I figured that.
Here's another thing that's interesting that people just selectively choose to ignore or not try to figure out more of. There was a time during that point that there was pressure for a lot of Black people to choose a different political party come election time. Pressure like threats, like if you don't go this way, something might happen to you and your family.
Wow.
Might have come about with a simple, subtle reminder, maybe of a burning cross on your front yard. Those people that were threatening people to vote non-Republican, what party do they want them to vote for?
I can only guess. The Democrats.
Democrats. So I say all that to say, listen, once again, there is no perfect political party because we're all human beings, sinners, people that do bad things from time to time. Republicans have a checkered history just as much as Democrats, and to some degree, maybe even a little more so, because it's hard to recover from being the party that is associated with being against slavery, that was involved with the origination of the Ku Klux Klan, was propagating Jim Crow, was coming up with, what was seemingly helpful to Black people as far as like welfare. But if you take a look at the facts and the results as far as how the war on poverty and the whole welfare system that we thought was going to help Blacks was going to be, it didn't really come out very helpful for Black families, because we had a lot more families that are single parent households that are more along the poverty line. But these were policies done by the
Democrats.
So I say all that to say this. It probably would help a lot of people, especially young Black people, male or female, to have a better grounding of what kind of checkered history both political parties have had. Because what you come across on that one to say is, hey, once you kind of know what the history is, I probably shouldn't be so quick to say that Republicans are racist. Because if you look at the history, we'll just let you fill in the blank. Here's the second one I would say. And there's three. I'll cap it at three. But the second one is, I voted Democrat up until 2016. 2016, I did something really weird. I took the party platform of the Democratic Party and I read through it front to back. And I did the same thing with the Republican Party platform and I read through it front to back. And oddly enough, I came to the conclusion, after being open to both policy platforms of both political parties, I came to the odd conclusion that I align more with the Republican Party and feel like what they have to say is more in line on two fronts. One, it has policies and platforms that I feel are more aligned for me as a Christian of where I want things to go as far as our nation individually, for my family, for my community, for my nation that I am a citizen of. Because when you come across a platform that goes out of its way to omit God in its words, you have to ask yourself, does this make sense? Is this going to lead people closer to God or away from God? If you're going to advocate certain policies or certain beliefs that are not necessarily progressive, but I would argue is actually transgressive, meaning transgression, sin. We're promoting sin in some of these policies. We are celebrating sin in these policies. And that for anyone who has a healthy fear of God, meaning that you treat God seriously, and what he says, you don't want to listen. I know I'm a sinner. I know every day I fall short, but at the very least, I don't want to be in a situation where I am unrepentant living in sin, or at the very least, celebrating and advocating sinful lifestyles or sinful ways of being that makes people think that's okay, that further brings them away from God rather than closer to God.
Right. Yep.
So that's the second one. And the third one is, once again, looking at those same policies, right? Because personalities, they come and go, everyone's flawed, but let's look at the policies, right? It's all honestly looking at it in the sense of saying what policies and platforms actually will help me and my family. And just saying, listen, apples to apples comparison, let the best idea win. Take my family history out of it, saying like, oh, Black people voted Democrat, so you have to vote Democrat. No. Let's think this through. Let's be critical thinkers. Let's use what God gave us in our head to think it out. And if I agree with you, great. If I disagree with you, that's fine. But I'm going to look at it from the sense of which ideas and policies and platforms and results would I rather live with that's going to help myself and my family. And if it happens to be Democrat, great. If it happens to be Republican, that's great too. But when you look at it from that standpoint, you take into account the full history. You take into account with, if you are a believer, which platform, which party is leading people more closer to God, or what God would want rather than away from God and more into sin. And then also looking at policies and platforms as far as which ones are going to be in my best interest as an individual and with regard to my family. And oftentimes when you do that, you put yourself in a position where you can say, yeah, I can see where I would lean more Republican or be more conservative than Democrat or liberal.
That's good. And so, Mr. Phillip, we talk about money, all the time. And I was raised Democratic. I never asked, I just vote Democrat because that was the way that I was raised. And so many African Americans think the Democratic Party is so wonderful because they think that the Democratic Party is going to put money in their pockets, that the Democratic Party is going to look out for their best interest. Can you speak a little bit about the Democratic Party putting money in our pocket because we're Black? Because that's why a lot of Black people that I know vote Democratic, because they think that's where the money is going to come from.
So we sell ourselves to the highest bidder, I see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's something.
So one thing I've learned, and maybe this is a part of conservative philosophy or ideology of that sort or not, but when I was growing up, I had to be fed off of milk because I had no way of being able to fend for myself or feed for myself. So my mom literally had to nurse me and give me food so I can survive. And then as I got older, my mom sat me at a table and she cooked some food and she put it in front of me, but I still had to either pick it up with my hands or use utensils to cut it and put it from plate to mouth. So I had to do some sort of effort, some sort of exertion. And then as I got older, I couldn't live in my mom's house anymore.
That's right.
I became a man.
That's
and I had to do what men should do, meaning being able to live on your own and feed yourself, meaning not just taking food from hand to mouth, fork to mouth, but you actually had to get the food yourself. You had to actually be able to find the way to earn the money to be able to put food on the table.
Yes.
Till you get to the point where you can now do that for someone beyond just yourself.
Right.
As in like a spouse and kids of your own.
Yes.
And even grandkids. So I say all that to say, listen, at some point we have to grow up. I had to, you had to, and everyone else. The government can't be seen as our mother forever.
Wow. Okay. That's good.
The parents may come in for Thanksgiving. They may bring a ham or a turkey or some cake and that sort. They might do something nice for your birthday. They may do something for New Year's and that sort. But that's on occasion. We shouldn't be expecting food from them year round.
That's right. That's
So at
right.
some point, you have to think about it the same sense with the government. Are you expecting the government to feed you hand to mouth for the rest of your life?
Ooh.
Or is it more so providing you with what you need for you to be able to be self-reliant, to be able to care for yourself, to get a job, to start a business, to do something that provides food on the
Mm-hmm.
table for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and provide the structure and the surroundings for you to be able to do that in a safe neighborhood to provide for yourself and hopefully your family.
That's right.
So I guess the real question is, have we grown up from milk to meat at this point?
That's good. That's a good question.
Milk, the solid food.
Yeah. You want to add something to that? Because you know I got one more burning question for him.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Okay, so
Bring it
I
on.
don't have a political
Bring it
background.
on.
I'm not going to try to fake it and pretend like I do. But I have read the Democratic Party's platform, and I have read the Republicans Party platform. Okay, so 2024, based on what I've seen and the things that have occurred within the last 6 months, 2024, in my opinion, is a critical election year. And people really need to be aware of what party they're voting for. Like, don't just vote because that's what your parents did. Learn it for yourself. But looking at all the incidences of 2024, do you think this is a critical election year?
Absolutely. I also remember they said something similar back in 2008.
Okay, what was that?
In 2016.
Oh. So for
So,
those youngsters who don't know what happened in 2008 and 2016, can you
so,
let
two,
the young know?
so 2008, when I was a young 20-year-old whippersnapper,
Mm-hmm.
the prospect of having the first Black president came out very significant for a lot of people nationwide.
Mm-hmm. It did.
And I would argue it was a significant influence on how many people, millions of people voted. 2016 was one where we had the prospect of having the first female president of the United States. And that was a significant influence on what a lot of people would vote for on that year.
Mm-hmm.
What also happened during that year was we had a candidate that a lot of people had a growing distaste for, if I could say it nicely.
Right.
It started in 2016. It got a little more intense 2020. And now it seems like it's at a boiling point to the point of we have multiple people that dislike or hate this guy to the point that they don't want to see him alive.
Oh, yes. That's amazing.
We gotten to the point that we are so in disgust with one another that we say, hey, it's probably best that you don't even make it another day. And so I think in totality of that, but also of other things that happened over the past 6 months, I agree with you. I think that this election is very significant because you have very stark differences between the two political parties and the visions that they have for America. Some would argue one party is going off of past results, substance, and clear policies that they feel like have worked in the past and will help us in the future. You also have another party that's hinging off of good vibes. Joy. The prospect of making history again. But last time I checked, in this economy that we're living in now, joy isn't going to help me with my mortgage this month. I can't cash into my bank. Hey, I got these good vibes I want to write a check out for to take care of this student loan debt that has increased and these eggs and bread that has gone up 15-20% because I need to feed my family. But don't worry, I don't have a job, but I got these good vibes I want to put down. I'm just trusting that what I'm feeling oversees or supersedes the facts of what's really going on. And so I think part of it is one way or the other, a significant precedent is going to be set after November 5th. Wow. And I just really hope and pray that people get out of their feelings and have some tough conversations and questions to be asked and answered about what are the facts of where we are today and how can we have a better future, not just for ourselves, but for the next generation, for our children and our grandchildren. Whether it's regarding the economy, if it's regarding immigration, trying to prevent a future world war, certain social issues that put us in contests of, in our household, who will we really serve?
Oh yeah.
A lot of these things are going to come out very much so for us to decide on. And it really boils right back to, who are you ultimately worshiping? Who's going to have the ultimate say so on what's right for you to decide on? That's what it comes down to.
So, you said something, and it's kind of true. Good vibes. Because if you look around and if you kind of see what's really going on, it seems like everybody's forgetting how the past, about 3.5 years
Mm-hmm.
has gone when it comes to, like you said, increased egg prices, increased grocery prices. You got to increase rent. You got everything has increased. Inflation has skyrocketed, right?
And don't
Mm-hmm.
forget about the border crossing. We
Oh.
live near the border.
Oh, I forgot about that. I thank you, honey. I just forgot about
That's
that.
a major.
And millions of people flooding the border, right? Coming into
That
America
that we don't know of.
that we don't know of.
Right.
Wasn't even
Th-
child.
th-
Just
th-
coming to
th-
the border.
this is not coming to America where they're coming from Zamunda. At least they had some sense and some money.
Yes.
Yes.
They had a whole kingdom.
Had a
Yes.
whole kingdom. They
Right.
got their own money. And when I
Oh,
say they got their own money, I say they got their own money.
Well, the ones coming across the border coming to get
Your
your money.
There you go. That's the difference.
Yes. So now you look at those different things that happened during these past 3.5 years per se. What do you think with the upcoming election, and saying, for instance, we have a changeover with the Republican Party? What do you think some of those parties, the policies that they can set in place that can help with some of those different aspects of, like, the border crossing or the high inflation? In your opinion, what do you think?
So I think you have to think about it in the sense, okay, you had 3.5 years post-COVID. We had high inflation. We had a pandemic. How did we go about that? One party was in play, was in the White House during that time. And not too long ago, both the president and vice president were running for re-election as is. Now, recently, there's a game of musical chairs that was played.
I guess that was for a reason, huh?
And when the music stopped, the VP had a chair to sit on, and the old man fell again.
Yes, he did.
So you have the VP that's running, that's in a really tough position, I would argue, because how can you go for change on showing how you're going to do things better day one when you become president, when one, you're currently the VP right now? We're not talking about day one here. We're talking about you've been in office for day 1301. You could do something right now. So the question then becomes, well, why can't you do something right now? Wouldn't that be the best way to demonstrate to the nation of your competence to be able to get the job done?
Ooh, I didn't even think of that. You got a point.
So if you couldn't get it done now, what's the reason? You're in office now. Is it because you're the VP and you just can't get it done unless you become the president? So once you have the title, now you feel empowered to do something about it? Or maybe it's something where you and the president can't work well in the sandbox together. Maybe somebody's saying, nope, you're not gonna get that done. Not with me in the office. If I can't run, then hey, you're gonna have to wait. Or maybe it's because both people can't get the job done beyond what they've done in the past 3.5 years.
Ooh.
So here's my question. If I didn't meet expectations while working for you and you gave me 3.5 years to do it, and the situation got worse than better, and it came down for my performance review on whether or not I was going to be here for another 4 years, would you let me stay on for another 4 years? Or would you even promote me? Or would you fire me?
I definitely wouldn't promote you.
Exit the building.
Those were some deep questions to think about. Yeah, I like what you said, because even me, I didn't think about that. Like, you've been in here all this time. Philip, that's deep. And I'm sure that is gonna have to impact somebody, because it impacted me. So your perspective has been a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what else you want to add?
No,
I
go
can
ahead,
tell you burning.
No, go ahead, because I want you to finish that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's my big thing is because we're getting so caught up in the who,
the vibes,
we're
feel good.
the feel good. We're forgetting the issue, like because yesterday, like a huge name promoted the VP, and what I've seen on the news is that this person has never promoted any platform. So as big as this person is, maybe she ain't even asked herself this question. If she ain't got it done over the last 3.5 years, how's she gonna get it done in the next 4?
Here's my thing. That same person I think you're alluding to, I didn't watch the conventions. I just heard what happened. I had better things to do, like take care of my own family, take care of my house before being worried about what's happening in the White House. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother topic. What made it different this year that person now comes out and shows her or his support?
I've been asking myself
why. And if
why?
If the person before was running, would that person had still come out for support, or was there something different about this new candidate that you said, hey, I'll make an exception? I haven't made appearances before. I haven't publicly advocated for a certain person or a certain party, but for some reason, we're gonna make an exception here. That's an interesting question.
I'm like, do you have an inkling? Did the Holy Spirit tell you something? Because I don't know why. Only thing I can figure is because of the candidate is a female. Nothing else.
But then again, there was a female run in 2016 too.
That knocked that one out. I
knew
that some type of tuition. You might as well tell.
Listen, last time I checked, not only good vibes can't cash a check, but I can't go to the grocery store and pay for my groceries off of skin color or gender either.
Okay. We sure can't. Not where I shop.
And here's the thing that comes to my mind. At what point, when we talk about and we glorify what Dr. King talks about not being judged by the color of our skin, but on the content of our character, what point are we going to actually say, let's actually get to that point? Let's not keep aspiring for it. Let's just say, you know what? The content of the character, yes, but we're also voting for somebody that's going to be in the role of the most important job, not only in the United States, but arguably in the free world.
Yes.
And I know all three of us have applied for jobs before.
Oh, yes.
And some of us have actually hired people for jobs too.
Yes.
So you've had to look at the resume. You've had to interview somebody.
Yep.
You might have to conduct references. You might have to look at a transcript. You couldn't just go off of, oh, she just looks nice.
That's true.
You couldn't just go, oh, let me just help out my sister. Let me just help out my brother. At some point, you have to say, where's the competent? Not just the content of the character, but also the competence of your capability.
Oh, yes.
Do you present enough for me that I feel like if I put you in this job over somebody else, you can actually do the job. And I'm going to feel like I made the right choice because not just because I checked the box that I hired someone who was Black, not because I could check the box and I can say I hired someone who was a female. No, I feel good because I hired somebody, I elected somebody that I feel confident that of all the candidates to choose from, that person by and far has the best competence to actually get the job done.
Right.
Because the stakes that are involved here, we may not get a do-over.
Oh,
that's right.
And last time I checked, we're selecting a president. What we're not selecting is homecoming court.
That's true. I hope the listeners are hearing you. Do you have anything before we let him go?
No, I mean, that right there.
That was good. But before we let him go, I would like for you to give some advice for the people who maybe can't decide whether or not they're Democrat or Republican. If you could just give a few words of encouragement for someone who's just really not sure, because this is really almost a circus. Like, I had never seen nothing like this before.
Good vibe. Philip said it. Good vibes.
It's good vibes, but yeah, we need you to give them some solid recommendations.
Here's another thing. I haven't done this in a long time, so excuse me. But if you partake of a certain type of beverage, it might give you some good vibes too, if you have enough of them.
Yeah.
If you partake of certain substances, legal or illegal, they might give you a certain type of vibe too.
Yeah, they make you wonder, are they trying to kill us? The ones who don't know no better.
But here's the thing though, at the end of the day, the next morning,
there it is.
after the hangover,
There it is.
after the buzz, the good vibrations, you're faced with reality again.
Yes.
Yeah.
The bills are still there.
Oh, yes.
You still have to go to work. You still have kids to feed. You still got a mortgage to take care of. You still got concern about whether or not your neighborhood is safe or not. And whether or not when you go to sleep and you close your eyes and you turn off the light, how confident are you going to wake up the next morning and everything in your house is still there?
Right. Absolutely.
Those are things that good vibes cannot answer, because what I just illustrated is good vibes are temporary.
Oh, yeah.
Sure enough.
And at some point, we got to put those childish things away. And we got to grow up and deal with reality. So the advice I would have for somebody that's trying to decide is figure out what is important to you.
Right.
If nothing else, take a look at both party platforms.
Okay.
Read them. Suspend judgment until you read both of them. And then ask yourself the question and get off of Facebook, get off the phone, go into the closet somewhere if you have to, and ask yourself, and it maybe include God too, if you're a believer.
Right.
Which one of these makes the most sense for me on where I should decide? And I think that what was odd for me in 2016 when I did that may appear odd for a lot of people in 2024. However, that is the same sort of weird moment that I think, if we're being fair to ourselves, all of us should experience much more of this year and actually figure out, what do we stand for?
Oh, yes.
Totally agree.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well,
That's that. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah, that was good. Thank you, Mr. Phillip.
So Philip, can you please let the audience know, first of all, where can they find your book, With Jesus Over Black? And I don't, matter of fact, repeat it for me one more time and tell us where can you find it. The whole
Absolutely.
title.
So the whole title, Jesus Over Black, How My Faith Transformed Me into a Conservative Within the Black Community. It's available on Amazon, and you can go to the website www.jesusoverblack.com.
Thank you. That was well said. And I'm hoping, because we are in such a critical time with this election year, that the information that you have provided is going to be a blessing to our audience, and they'll be able to make an informed decision. And audience, if you enjoyed our content, we ask that you like it, share it, and subscribe it. And we will be back here again next week with some more information and some more topics about money in your life. Thanks for watching.